And I just thought, what a great idea. And then the first thing I thought was, well, this is for podcasting, but can this happen for music? So I thought, well, what's stopping me from uploading my music as a podcast episode? And then it will get picked up by Fountain and all other RSS apps, all other podcasting apps. And then people can send me sats. So that's what I did, basically. I just made a podcast and put a song up as a podcast episode, just as a little hack, I guess.
So we got Joe Martin. You are the first person who ever released their music through an RSS feed and connected it with Bitcoin. Joe, thank you for being here, and tell me how that even happened for you, dude.
Well, firstly, thank you, Cole, for having me on. I don't know if I was the very first, but I was definitely...
We're going to claim it. I'll claim it for you.
I was definitely early on. It's kind of, well... It's not that strange a story. I was just like going down the rabbit hole of sort of Bitcoin and this new idea called value for value, which is basically the idea of putting your content out as either a podcaster or a musician or anyone really, putting your content out for free and just asking listeners to send some sort of value back. And in this case, the value is in the form of sats. So I first came across this idea, I think, listening to a podcast by a guy called Kevin Rook, and he was interviewing Oscar Merry from Fountain. And I think it was the first time like Oscar had been on a podcast talking about Fountain, because I hadn't heard about it before. And I just thought, what a great idea. And then the first thing I thought was, well, this is for podcasting, but can this happen for music? And I looked around and I couldn't really find anything. So I thought, well, why can't I what's stopping me from uploading my music as a podcast episode? And then it will get picked up by Fountain and all other RSS apps, all other podcasting apps. And then people can send me sats. So that's what I did, basically. I just made a podcast and put a song up as a podcast episode, just as a little hack, I guess. And then,
I mean, it's a genius hack. Genius.
Yeah, and then Sam Means from Wavelake reached out to me shortly after and said, "Hi, I've seen you've done this, and we're actually building a similar platform, but that's music specific. Do you want to try it out?" So I said yes, and then like the rest is history. And then all my catalog went there. But that's the sort of brief story of how it happened.
Right.
But like the kind of the bigger backdrop behind it all is just like every other musician and songwriter, like I'm just extremely disillusioned with the way things have gone, how difficult it is for artists to get paid for their work, and how Spotify, Apple Music and these big platforms have kind of cornered the market and the value isn't flowing from the listeners to the artists, and people feel like there's a bit of an injustice done there, especially with how much time and effort and resources goes into making albums and stuff like that. So I just thought like there needs to be a better way. If an artist, if a fan, one of your top fans wants to send you, even if it's a couple of dollars or whatever, there should be an easy way to do it. So I think this is what people have been waiting for, but I mean, we're still so early and there's still so many unknowns, and it's all quite technical and still a bit cumbersome, but it's getting better. So
yeah,
it's promising.
So it sounds like you were making music for a while and you were like pretty disillusioned with Spotify and all the other, mainstream DSPs and all the other platforms and stuff like that. How long have you been making music, and like, how long have you been like upset at Spotify?
Well, I've been making music for the past decade, really. I only released my album a couple of years ago. I was meant to release it maybe in like 2020, and then COVID happened and knocked it all back a few years. But I think my first release was 2017, and I've been doing EPs and singles since. And and like at the time, you just upload your music to as many places as possible to give it the most exposure as you can. And it's kind of like the catch-22. Like, you have to be on Spotify, because especially if you're trying to get gigs as well. And like the live thing is a big part of what I do, and a big part of like every musician's like income. It's all about live now. So if you're trying to land a show and get a booking, the first thing that the the venue will ask is, okay, well, can I listen to your music on Spotify, or if they use Apple Music, maybe it's on Apple, or you can send them a YouTube link, but it's normally like, send me a Spotify link. And then if you were like, well, I'm not on Spotify because I don't agree with it or whatever, they'll just think, well, are you really serious? Like, everyone's on Spotify. So um, I don't know. I think like we've been a bit too complacent and a bit too like eager to just go along with stuff and just upload it everywhere. But it's the way things are now. The internet has like dematerialized everything, and music is one of those things. And like the marginal cost of basically um, distributing another MP3 file is technically like zero, the cost of electricity and
Yeah.
internet. So we're just having to be more. We're having to be more creative in the ways that we find
Hmm.
revenue now. But I think things have happened the way they have on this timeline because there was no way digitally to send value. Like the whole credit card system was like bolstered onto the internet, um, and it's kind of been done in a subscription model. Spotify has made it really easy and has a really sexy and slick user experience. So people drifted away from the torrenting thing, which was a bit messy, and they just thought, well, I'll pay my 10.99 a month. They've just found a price that people are willing to be like, okay, I'll pay this per month. I'll have access to all the world's music, and then they're just locked into a subscription. But like, I guess the listener doesn't really think, is that money? They just don't think where the money's going. Is it making it to the artist? They might think it is. I know a lot of people that I speak to still think that their Spotify subscription, if they listen to like me as one of the like three artists, just as an example, that month, that I will get a third of that money. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's crazy
So
because during COVID, I remember because like I have always been like an artist. I'm a filmmaker. I care about artists. I care about that whole side of things. And so during COVID, I was looking for something that could like allow me to help the artist a bit more. And that's one of the benefits of Tidal, which I think is owned by Jay Z. Tidal allows you to put a section of your subscription money and send it directly to the artist. But then most of my money is going to Kanye West. It's like, well, why am I giving this already successful guy even more money? And how do I find independent, smaller people, and how do I support them as much as possible? And I found Bitcoin and this whole like ecosystem through podcasting. Did you know anything about Bitcoin before you uploaded your music through RSS, or like was that already like was that another like hurdle that you had to jump through?
yeah, I already sort of knew a bit about Bitcoin, and I've been watching, well, Lightning develop really, because that's kind of the whole micro transaction piece of the puzzle that allows like very small payments to be sent instantly, and that's what unlocks this new sort of economy. So I was sort of like on the sidelines, like watching all that happen, and just thinking like, this is going to happen
Hmm.
someday. I don't know what it's going to look like. So that was the missing piece of the puzzle that kind of made things fall into place, and I think it breathed life back into the RSS protocol as well. I mean, I don't know much about the history of RSS, but I know it's been around a
Hmm.
long time. And then it was almost like Lightning coming along and matching up with RSS, and like unlocked all these new possibilities. And then Adam Curry was the pioneer of the value for value
Hmm.
idea. And then there was like new specifications to like add music tags, so you can like differentiate between what is a podcast RSS and what is like just a music RSS feed as well. Um, but I think the broader trend of what is actually going on, which will probably become apparent in hindsight, is more of this like overarching theme of just decentralization and people owning their speech, with things like Noster, for instance, being able to own their own
Hmm.
data and not being locked into a platform, and being able to move from one platform to another. So like RSS is a good example where you can actually move your RSS feed from one hosting
Hmm.
platform to another. That gives you options. Noster's the same in a way, with your Noster identity, to be able to move from one
Hmm.
client to another. Um, and then obviously it's all open standards and interoperability. So I think like that's just a massive like mental shift for
Hmm.
people, um, and maybe people just don't understand the importance or significance of it. But um, I think it will be looked back on as a really strange thing to be uploading your music to a siloed like
Hmm.
platform that isn't open and you can't send value to it,
Yeah.
instead of like something like Nostr, or having an RSS feed where people can send you value to your Lightning address and it's being like published on the whole network and anything can like link into it
Yeah.
as
When
well.
did you first hear about
Um,
Bitcoin? You said
so
before the pandemic. Is that when you first heard about Bitcoin?
yeah, yeah, like
2018. Yeah,
2018,
dude.
I
So
think
you
was
sort of
the
had
time
like a
frame.
long journey of like figuring out what Bitcoin was and why it works, just in general, like how it works. And then like you sort of had like a light
Yeah,
bulb moment when you like see these two things, music and Bitcoin, like bing bing bing, like was that sort of like like the lights went off,
yeah,
like you won the jackpot, or like is that how it went?
kind of. Well, it's like they say, don't they? Bitcoin fixes this, and it does. It is true of most things, and I think you can apply that to the music industry as well, because the way things are at the moment, I know so many artists are just like at the end of their
Hmm.
tether with it all. Like I said, everything's become about live, and like selling merch and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and more about the branding and stuff. And the music's kind of like it's weird. It's weirdly become a lost leader, or like an afterthought in a way, because the main revenue is coming from elsewhere, and it's putting pressure on like people having to get more and more gigs to keep up. And ever since COVID as well, like a lot of smaller venues are closing. They can't afford to stay open, and that's leaving a smaller pool of venues for the same amount of artists that are trying to fight for that space.
yeah,
So it's weird times, but I think everyone's sort of desperate for an alternative or an answer, or maybe they don't know they're looking for a solution, but everyone knows the problem. I think that's the main thing. Everyone feels the pain points, and also like the whole thing of people making reels on TikTok or Instagram
yeah.
every day, because of the algorithms kind of rewarding them for feeding
Hmm.
into that, and punishing people that don't engage in that, and it becomes kind of a weird thing that's going on, that's kind of sucking away everyone's creative energy and time, rather than focusing on writing the best
Yeah.
songs possible, or being creative as possible to kind of
Yeah, man, the
playing this
TikTok thing's
weird
interesting. I
instant
remember a
algorithm
few
game.
weeks ago, I actually like found like a new band because of a TikTok, and they have like 3 or 4 songs out, and they're like a bunch of like young people, and they're doing like their sound sounds like I don't know, like early 2000s alternative, like it sounds like Blink 182, sort of like a throwback to that, but it's like really good songs, and they have like 4 songs out, and I was like,
Yeah,
like their thing went viral on TikTok, and now I like it's cool that I have them on my music because I have YouTube Music, but it's like they're not getting any money, and it's like I just know that they're not, and it's
yeah,
crazy to think that there's like this like dichotomy of like TikTok, and like posting that kind of content. It's like okay, cool, everyone sees it, but like the artist isn't really benefiting that much. And I think that's a huge gap that I think the
yeah,
whole RSS feed and Bitcoin is sort of closing, because you can go viral and then you can earn money directly from the audience. um, I think that's like been like the coolest
yeah,
like thing for me to think about, just having like a direct payment from the individual listener to the musician, and that listener can choose how much they want to give. I think that's a giant hack. Like that's like a
yeah, for
FU
sure.
to subscriptions. That's an FU to like the entire system, dude. Even just like going back in time to like buying an album. Like who's setting the price of the album and why? Like why is a certain album worth a certain amount of money in this decade, but it's worth less in this other decade? Like pricing is always like it's arbitrary, of course, but when you put that arbitrary to like the individual, they can actually show the real value that they're getting from a person's music, which I think
Yeah,
is so cool. Because then that opens you up to actually
yeah,
sharing what you actually love. Because I think musicians always grow out of word of mouth. It's not just virality. It's always word of mouth. It's people sharing, like, "Oh, dude, you got
Yeah.
to listen to this." And then through that, like that just creates like a
Yeah.
stronger connection, you know. And how have you connected to your audience? Like, has anyone like come up to you personally, or have you gotten a lot more like DMs from people listening to you because you're using this system? How has your interaction with your audience changed while you use this new system?
Well, I feel like I'm kind of split into two at the moment. I've still got one foot in the legacy sort of like platforms, and then this other foot in the new value versus,
Hmm.
as we call it. So they're definitely different kind of audiences, but I keep dropping hints and like dropping like bits of information over in the traditional platforms to be like, hey, like check me out on Noster, come to listen to me on Wavelake and stuff. Even if people can't at the moment send any value because they've no sats, but just to see it
Hmm.
working really. But I guess when you say Nostr in Twitter or maybe Instagram, you get shadow banned. So I don't know if that's the best tactic or whether I should be doing it at live gigs. But yeah, I don't know. But like back to, I just want to touch on your point that you
Hmm.
made before. Like well, I don't know if I coined this, but like this idea of sats over
Hmm.
streams, like sats are far more valuable than the streams. Like you can have a million streams on Spotify, but like a lot of these streams as well, they can also come from like bot farms and things, and people can
Yeah.
buy streams. And that's harder to do when like there's real world value attached in the form of sats, I
Hmm.
guess. And like you said, when you attach a bit of economic value to a zap and you get sent sats, you can also, like you say, measure on a very granular um, scale, like how much that person values that specific song, as opposed to like that next person, as opposed to the next person, because you've got that like real insight with sats. Whereas like a like on Instagram, every
Hmm.
like is the same, um, every share is the same. You know what I mean? So I think that's really interesting as well. But can you imagine how crazy it's going to be when Noster hits a certain amount of users and something goes viral on Noster and like the person makes, I don't know, say like $1 million. Could you imagine for like a song they put
I
up
want
or
that. I want that to happen to
something?
you. I want that to
It'd
happen for
be,
me. Like, that'd be amazing.
and then like, could you imagine when that happens and everyone else hears about it on all these other platforms? They'll be like, wait, what? Like that could possibly happen to me, sort of thing. I think that would like open the floodgates for people to come
Yeah,
in.
it totally
So
will. I think it's like,
yeah, it's gonna happen
yeah,
one day, I
one
guess.
day slowly. It's like it's the same narrative with Bitcoin. It's like it happens like gradually and then suddenly. Like people are gonna just like keep
Yeah,
hearing little bits here and there. People, some artists will mention it, some listeners will mention it, and then all of a sudden there might be like a big event where it's like, whoa, look what just happened, or like it just like something's gonna click. You know, there's gonna be like the stars will align, I think, and either it's an artist who breaks out or it's an event that just like goes crazy, something like that. I really believe that it people will see that this is like a really better system. Um, yeah, man, I'm excited for it, dude. Um, so clearly, you're going to be making music for, I don't know, decades, for the rest of your life. Like, how long are you going to keep doing this?
I hope so. I hope so. I'm planning to cut my next album in October
Okay.
time. Um, and like I don't want to say too much really, because it's like until I'm there and it's actually happening, I won't believe it, because I'm working with some really great people, hopefully out in Nashville, and I kind of want to like make it more of a surprise when it actually happens, because if it does all come off the way I'm hoping, it'll
Yeah.
be pretty cool. So I'm planning to, yeah, make my next album in October. I'm trying to book my next UK tour for spring April next year. um, and I mean, these songs are kind of, I've written over the past 3 or 4 years, and I've got the whole concept together. I'm really happy with how it's looking so far. So I just need some top players and producers to help me bring it together. And then I want to do physicals. I want to do like vinyl this time as
That's
well.
sick.
Um, and I want to like let people. I want to release it physically first, actually, so the people that buy a physical copy will be able
Hmm.
to hear it before anyone else.
That's awesome. That's
Um,
so cool. I got to get a record
and
player
then
now.
Yeah, everyone's going to have to buy a record
You should sell a record player too.
and then, yeah, exactly. They're like, sorry, I can't buy your record. I'll be like, well, I've got a
Yeah,
record player right here to sell you.
genius.
I'm going to do CDs. I'm going to do CDs, obviously, as well. But then I'll probably release digitally first on
Hmm.
Value for Value, the Value verse, and then last on
Hmm.
Spotify, I
Yeah.
imagine. Because I think it's important that artists start doing that in a way, because it's kind of like just planting the flag in the ground and making a statement, being like, look, this is what I believe in, and the fans, if they like what I'm doing, will support that, and it's becoming, people are becoming much more aware of that fact that artists just aren't making any money anymore off recorded music. So and then at the same time, people are getting rid of the record players. Actually, well, records are actually kind of
Hmm.
back in fashion at the moment, but definitely CD sales for me have gone down quite a bit, just because over the years people are like, well, my CD player used to be in my car, and I've got a new car, and they don't come with a CD player anymore,
Yep.
um, stuff like that. So even that's getting
Yeah.
harder. uh, so I don't know, we'll see. But that's the plan for the next 12 months. But yeah, I mean, I hope to be making music in some form for forever, because like I never get tired of it, and especially the genre that I'm doing. I don't know how I settled on country and Americana music. As a guy from the UK, it's pretty niche, although it's kind of become popular now in a way. It's become cool. I've been waiting for this moment for 10 years because it's been uncool for 10 years, and now it's finally come
Yeah,
into
tell me how
fashion.
you got into that
Um,
genre, because it's definitely not common for people from the UK to even talk about it. Like, I would never have even
no,
guessed a person from the UK even knows what country is. Like, it's like purely from my
no.
perspective, just being an American, it's like that's like a pure American genre. So tell me how you got into that and like what like connected you to that genre.
Yeah, it's still pretty niche,
Hmm.
to be honest. But when I was kind of like in my teens, picking up the guitar, I knew I wanted to write. I didn't kind of know like what genre. I was like just trying to write anything and everything. I was kind of doing like a lot of folky stuff, playing at little folk clubs and things like that. And I didn't really think about country music. Like, I mean, I obviously knew a bit of country music, but um, and then it's become a bit of a cliche, because all the UK country artists always cite this as being like one of their biggest inspirations. Like people my age, was a show called Nashville. I don't know if you ever saw
I
that
think I've
show.
heard of it, but I never watched
Um,
it. No.
right, I think it came out in like 2012,
Okay.
2013, and this was kind of like right before I was just about to go to university, and I watched the show. And that first series, I mean, they're all good, but that first series, the songs are just
Mm.
incredible. Um, and I was like, what is this? I've got to learn more about this. So then I took a deeper dive into country music and started discovering like more contemporary artists, like Casey Musgraves was just kind of blowing up at that point, and Chris Stapleton, people like that. And what I loved about it was the storytelling side of the country music and the lyric, the fact that you could say this like really emotive, moving story in 3 minutes with very plain, ordinary language, but it was just done in such a way that it just hit you right here. So then that was it. I was hooked, and I just wanted to write story
Hmm.
songs, basically, in the country vein, like with that sort of with those melodies and that kind of just stripped back acoustic thing for what I was doing as a songwriter. So that's it really. And like just by osmosis, because I've listened to so much of it, that when I sing, I kind of have this transatlantic American-ish accent, which when I talk, I've got fully English accent, a British accent. So I kind of sometimes get teased about that when I sing when I sing my songs, and I've got this American twang. But I don't know. It's because I've listened to so much of that music. It's just rubbed off on me, and it feels natural to sing that way
Hmm.
for me now. Just as I imagine, like a British person living in the States for 10 years would start to have an American twang in their
Hmm.
speaking voice. it's only the same in a way. And when anyone says like, you're singing in an American accent, I say, well, have you ever heard a country song sung in a Lancashire accent?
Yeah, it
It
doesn't work.
it wouldn't it would not sound right at all. So that's funny, but yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
it
I
really.
like that, dude. Just at what point are you gonna just like say you're an American? You're singing American songs. You love Nashville. At what point are you gonna just like
Oh man.
defect from the king?
Well, tell you what, man. Like, if I could live in Nashville, I
Yeah.
would. I would already be there. Like it's always been my dream to like try and move out there, but I don't know. I've looked into it, and it's like, apart from just marrying an American lady, it's not going to happen. I
Dude,
don't think.
moving anywhere is hard. I would imagine.
But
Like, forget another country.
it,
I'm sure. Just
yeah,
moving, just
for
moving in
sure.
general is hard. So I get that.
For sure. But the thing is, like, I try and get back to Nashville as often as I can. Really, I was there last year for the first time in 6 years, so it was kind of like a long time. But I caught up with people that I met, back in 2018, and we picked up right where we left off. So that was great. But have you ever been in
No,
Nashville?
I've
Do you know
never
it
been to
well?
Nashville. Like, I want to. I know there's like a great vibe there, but I've just never been there.
It's kind of hard to explain. It's such a great vibe. Like I think the fact that everyone's a creative in a way, it's just got such a unique energy, and everyone's bouncing off each other. Everyone wants to write with each other. Like the co-writing culture in Nashville is really strong, and that's really unique and different from where I am. So it's nice to go out there and write with people, but you just feel so inspired being there. I feel like when I was there in July, I was there for the Bitcoin conference. I was playing a couple of shows, and then I was writing with people as well. And I wrote so much stuff when I was out there. I hadn't written anything for ages, and then all of a sudden, just like all these songs just poured out, which has made up the bulk of this next album that I'm
Wow.
recording. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool. But no, I love the place. But I'm like, I need to visit some other places in the
Yeah.
States. Like, I want to do Texas. I want to go to Texas, and some other places. But Nashville just keeps
Yeah.
calling me
Just
back.
hit all
You
the
know.
big spots, go to
Uh,
Texas,
but
go to New York, go to LA, just to see these big places, even go to the Grand Canyon, see some nature, you know?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I've been to
Nice.
Yosemite. That was
Yeah,
pretty
man.
epic. I'd love to go to Yellowstone. I have been to San Fran and LA. I don't know if I'd rush back to either of those. But like, I do like the South. I like Nashville. It's got a great vibe. I want to explore more of Tennessee, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough at the same time when you gotta stack
Yeah,
sats and
yeah, work and
leave. Keep pushing the trips
yeah,
further down the
I
road.
feel that too, dude. Yeah, man. So tell me about, okay, I'm actually really interested in, clearly there's like an American influence on art in general, just like throughout the world. But like, what was that like for you growing up? Clearly, you were inspired by this Nashville show, but like, were you like growing up? Were you listening to any other like American artists who like inspired you? What was that like for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I remember getting for Christmas one year as a kid, like one of those early
Hmm.
iPods, the really
Yep.
chunky ones,
Yep.
and it can only fit so much. Can only fit so much on there. And I think like the three artists that were on there was Elvis, the Beach Boys, and Bob Dylan and the
Wow.
Beatles, maybe some Johnny
Wow.
Cash or something.
So one
But it was
band from
like
England,
I
one
just
band
really,
from England. Everyone else is American. It's
yeah, yeah,
crazy.
yeah, pretty much. And like I just used to listen to Elvis on repeat, like obsessed, and the Beach Boys too. Like I absolutely love the harmonies, the harmony stuff. I'm big into that. I kind of miss playing with a band just for the harmony
Mhm.
side of things. I used to be in a duo when I was a lot younger as well. We used to do some harmony singing. Um, but yeah, like I love all the American stuff. So yeah, I'd say it was a big
Yeah.
influence musically on me growing up. And Glenn Campbell and John Denver and Don
Mhm.
McLean, artists like that. The songwriters, James Taylor is a massive, massive influence. So yeah, it's always been a lot of American artists that I've been listening to. But no, I mean, I mean, it was the show Nashville that sparked the curiosity to go back and dig a little deeper into the country
Hmm.
genre. Um, and yeah, like I don't know, I love it. I love it. I mean, there's no one making music like that these days. There was just something special about that time. I think I'm like a massive fan of 60s and 70s, and then it starts to go off
Right.
a bit for me. I'm not as into the stuff that came later than that, and I think that would always make me a bit of like a black sheep. Like when I was at school and stuff, like all my friends would be listening to whatever music was out at the time in the noughties, and I'd be like, "This is shit." I wanna listen to some real music, you know.
You're already an
So
old
I'd be
man. You're an
listening to
old
like
man
really
in high
old. I,
school. You don't even
I
know
was
what
I,
music is.
literally like literally like an old man. I'm like finally catching up with like my age inside. So yeah, I mean, like and like the great songwriters like Paul Simon, stuff like that. Um, I always like was like, man, I just want to write one of the, like a song like that one day. You know, it was just like put on this pedestal as like the holy grail to try and write, you know, one of those legendary songs.
Yeah.
It's the never ending chase to try and write the better song. That's what I love
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, man, it's crazy when you look into like creativity and stuff like when it comes to like anything like iconic, movie or music, people it's very interesting to see how a lot of artists it's like they put so much work in their work, but it's like they don't even know what's going to be iconic. They don't know what's going to be popular. They don't know what's going to resonate with people. And so it's just like that constant churning out,
Yeah,
just doing your best, trying to make a better song, trying to, tell a better story.
yeah,
That's like there's like a magic in that somewhere.
yeah, man. I mean, I'm reading a Rick Rubin's book at the moment, and he says exactly that. He just says, you know, you've got to write, and I completely like agree with this. He says you've got to write something for yourself first that you truly believe in, and have the song and the art as the highest thing, and then think about like the audience and the listener later
Hmm.
on.
Yeah.
Um, and also put yourself in a creative space, like leave space in your life for creativity to come in, uh, because he's like you're an antenna picking up these like little nuances and signals from the universe. It sounds a bit hippie-ish, but like you know, if your mind's just constantly like cluttered and you're like jumping from thing to thing and you've not any time to just sit down and just sit down in silence or just take a walk, you know, there's no space in your mind for that creativity and that little spark that we don't really know where it comes from to kind of light itself. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I kind of I feel that. Like sometimes it's only happened a handful of times, but I've written songs in the past where like I've not even really tried too hard to write the song. It's kind of literally being given to me or whatever, and I've just literally written it down from start to finish,
Wow.
finished, you know, and that's a bit spooky. Like so, and when he says stuff like that, you know, he says similar things in the book. I'm like, yeah, I kind of resonate with that. I understand, um, but yeah, I wish that would happen a bit more often.
Well, do you think that sort of happened the last time you were in Nashville? I mean, so many songs came to you or through you. Like, did that happen recently? I think.
Yeah, and I think that's just back to the energy that
Yeah.
Nashville has, and you're just surrounded by music the whole time. You know, like just every bar you go into, you're just getting soaked in it, and you just kind of you just feel inspired to write more. And maybe you're taking more shots on target, sort of thing, if something's going to hit. You know, because you're kind of just writing more while you're there because you're feeling inspired. And also, like changing your environment is important for that. Getting new input signals as well is important to keep things fresh. Mixing with different people, different ideas. I think it's a mixture of everything, really.
Yeah, man. The geography of things like really changes your energy. It's so interesting how that happens. I recently just saw that new Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise, and I was watching like behind the scenes stuff.
Right.
And he said something similar to what you just said. Like the way that Tom Cruise wants to make a movie is like the geography implies the action and the story. And so like they look for an environment
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, what can we do here? What is it giving us? Like and what are the restrictions? But what is it like what are we inspired to do right now? And I think like geography is so interesting because like there's real energy in Earth. Like there's energy in the rocks, there's energy in the trees. Like and these things give off
for sure.
vibes, and if there's like a community of people who are like, if their intention is pure and to create, then that creates alignment. That's the way I see it. And so Nashville seems to be like a magic place. LA might have been that place, maybe not anymore. I've been going through that, just living out here. Like there's like pockets where like things seem aligned, but then like the large like majority of things feel like they're not aligned. But then like but then you hear about these stories, like you go to Nashville and you go on these trips and you hang out in these pubs and these like certain locations where you have a live show and things just click. And like that's like, I find that so interesting and it's inspiring, and it's like there needs to be more emphasis on that. Like maybe I just need to search that out more because I don't like search for that as much. But hearing you talk about that, it's such a truth. It's so true when it comes to creativity. And if you want to make anything, put yourself in an environment that allows you to thrive, and that goes for like the physical environment, and what we're figuring out is the digital environment as well. And clearly, I'm not sure if Spotify and all the DSPs are that. I'm not sure if they're really aligned with creativity. It seems like they're really valuing money or just their own stock price over all the artists. And so it seems like the RSS and Bitcoin sphere, that creates more alignment, or it at least allows you to align yourself more with the creative process in a more pure way. Do you think that's true? Like, do you think this new system helps you to be creative so you're not worried about going viral or anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like these other platforms, they are
Hmm.
companies, right? They got shareholders to answer to, they've got targets to meet, so they're always going to be trying to eke out like that last bit of profit. Where if that comes at the detriment of the actual artists on the platform themselves. Whereas like these new, the protocols, they're not platforms. There are like companies and platforms building on top of them, but it is a massively different incentive structure, and I think it's all to do with the value being able to flow freely among them, and also you being able to exit and go to something better, to go to where you're treated better, basically. So that's a big part of it. Yeah, with the whole algorithm thing, like um, what I like about Nostr is that you're not you're not trying to like game any sort of algorithm. You can It's all transparent. There's either no algorithm, it's chronological what you're seeing on your feed, or you can choose your own algorithm, which is great. So it puts the user back in the driver's seat, and there's no sort of opaque things happening in the background that you don't really fully understand, and that changes incentives a lot as well. Um, so yeah, it's still early days, but it's exciting because I think things are in need of a big shake up. So I don't know, like I just wish more artists saw the potential and sort of like it clicked for them as well. I've spoken to a lot of close artist friends about the problems. Like everyone knows, like I said, everyone knows the problem, and then I sort of gently like bring up the idea of uh, this value for value idea and like things like Noster and that kind of thing. Um, but unless you kind of get into the technicals and show how it is vastly different and how therefore it could have different incentives and
Hmm.
outcomes, um, people just think it's like another thing that they have to learn, and like they don't have the time, they don't have the energy. It seems too technical. It seems a bit weird and geeky and like
Right.
scary. So I understand that. I understand that completely. But like my sort of message that I've always been sort of harping on is that um, they've already created the content. They've spent the money recording the songs and getting the photo shoots and everything. So it's just one more place to upload. But with something like Noster, for instance, you're building something on a solid foundation. Like you own your own content at the end of the day, and no one can take that away from you, and you can monetize it yourself. Like there's no one standing in the middle taking their cut or making you kind of play some sort of algorithm game or anything like
Hmm.
that. So um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we were just saying before the call, like maybe the best way to go about it is just to um, I don't know, maybe show people first, or just explain it in simple terms without bringing up any technical words or weird words like Noster that will just make them like think like what. Um, and then when they see it working, or they get that immediate feedback from a zap or something, and they're like, oh wow, I actually just made a dollar. Like I just posted a picture of me with my guitar like I would on
Hmm.
Instagram. Like
Yeah.
then you don't have to explain much
Then
further
it
than that,
feels real.
Um, feels real. Yeah, it connects them with that person like instantly in a new and unique way.
Mm.
But I think like the biggest hurdle is just the whole network effect issue, which is always going to be an issue. It's just like getting people to move over to a new system is like it's got to be 10 to 100x times better, and I think it is, but it's still so small. They're like, well, if I post on this, like no one's going to see it anyway because who's
Hmm.
really using it? But that's not the point. The point is to kind of like be building something in parallel because you've already made the content. That's the whole point. You've already made the content, so you might as well post it on these open systems and like build it in tandem with what you're doing on legacy social media, so that one day more like people will be just moving across like slowly but surely, and you're building on solid foundations that content is yours. You can monetize
Yeah.
it. No gatekeepers.
Yeah.
So that's the message, really. But it's I think when it first clicked for me, I was just so excited about it. I was like talking about it all the
Hmm.
time. I'm sure I was driving people crazy. Like my friend groups that would hear me sort of talk about it would be like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And like I just maybe thought I was a bit naive in thinking that it would have taken off a little bit quicker than it seems to have been. But I just think it's just a matter of time because like even the usability of these things is so much better than a couple of years ago, and it has only been a couple of years since. Well, I think 2022 maybe is when I uploaded a
Hmm.
first single. So it's not even been 3 years yet, but it's already come so far. Like everyone that's building this stuff, it's just incredible to watch. So fast forward, and it's going to get exponentially better. Um, like, I mean, I don't understand it at all, so I'm not going to talk to it too much. But even this whole vibe coding idea on Noster, where you can just literally, and soon it won't even be code. You'll just type in a like a little box, like it with plain text, how you want an app to look and what you want it to do, and it will just make an app. And it might be better than anything that's been
Hmm.
built before. Like I think we're just getting to a point now where it's just gonna like explode in like this Cambrian explosion of creativity, and people will just see the power of open systems as opposed to closed systems and what you can do with this open tech. So it's exciting times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is going to happen. I'm sticking around. Like I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep beating the drum
Good,
about
man.
it.
I'm
So
with you, dude. I'm with you. I'm going to keep podcasting with this system. I'm going to keep because I play music on my podcast, and I always give the musician like a 90% split. That's like the other big thing too. Like,
yeah,
a
yeah, oh man, big time.
podcaster can play a song and give the artist a split of money, and that's an incentive to like to just use the system, but also for the listener to support the people that they're listening to and that they love. And that's like something that I try to hit on my
Yeah,
shows all the time. I think we'll wrap it up with this last question, dude. So
absolutely.
one last question: If you pretend like I'm like an artist, right? You're Joe Martin, and you're pitching me this new system. Like, how would you describe this new system to an artist and why they should use it?
Well, let's say this new system enables a way for fans to pay you directly with no minimum or maximum amount. You will get to keep all the money. It will arrive instantly, and the content that you put out, you will actually own digitally. It won't be owned by the platform, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. It will be owned by you. You have a lot more assurances, and I don't know. It's just like it's just makes the right incentives. it aligns you with the right incentives, and it'll put you in touch with your fans in a way that you didn't think was possible, because now you can see exactly the amount of value that they're sending for your work, and you can also take that information and orient yourself towards it. So that's the best way I could describe it without getting into anything too technical. But it kind of, I guess, it helps if people have a little bit of a exposure to these systems and these ideas. It makes it a bit more palatable for them. I'm going to try going forward to do the purple pilling first and get them into Nostr, and then bring the Bitcoin thing in
Hmm.
later,
Yeah.
maybe. But like for instance, like I did a gig with Theo Katzman from Wolfpack
Hmm.
last year, and he's a maxi as far as I can tell. Um, so he got it straight away. He was really interested. He hadn't heard about value for value, or platforms like Wave Lake Fountain, etc. So when I mentioned it to him, he was just like, "Okay, I'm going to learn about this." And then got him set up on Nostr, and got him upload into the Valueverse. And like a bigger artist like that, we need them to come along and sort of like help champion this as well. But like I said, like he was already a maxi, so it was just like he was just like, yeah, show me, bring it on. Whereas everyone else, it's maybe going to take different kind of tactics to get them there.
Hmm.
But we'll keep working on it, keep spreading the good word, and we'll be trying to show people as well as tell them about it.
Yes, sir.
So
Amen. I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. Well, Joe, dude, thank you so much for doing this, dude. I really appreciate you talking to me, and I think it's important for musicians to hear that there is a new system out there that real people making real music is using, and they're benefiting from it. They're connecting with their audience more. They're getting payments directly from those listeners. Like, I just think like you are an innovator, like in the purest sense, dude. Like, thank you for being an innovator. Thank you for being creative, dude. Like, just thank you.
well, thanks for the kind words, Cole. I really appreciate it, and thank you
Of
for having
course,
me
dude.
on.